Hi, welcome to Serial Binger. You're listening to Who Made Me a Princess. Happy binging. What do I have to do for you to love me? Athanasia looked up at the person in front of her with a tear-stained face. But her father, Emperor Claude, coldly looked at his daughter, who was crying at his feet. Should I become like Jeanette? Then will you love me? Then will you warmly call my name? If I just work harder. Her beautiful stepsister. As if it wasn't enough to take what little honor Athanasia possessed, she also stole Claude's love. Athanasia was at her limits. She didn't know what else she needed to do. Will you hug me in your arms instead of pushing me away? Over my dead body. How come? But Claude didn't hesitate. He didn't even blink at the sight of his usually obedient daughter crying with despair. But I'm also your daughter. I was with you for longer than Jeanette was. Athanasia begged with all the courage she could muster. This was Athanasia's first and last plea. She had never asked for anything else. But her king, her father, was cold like ice to the very end. Foolish being. Claude pushed away the frail hand that was holding on to his leg. He looked at her with contempt. A cruel voice crept into her ears. I've never considered you my daughter. Athanasia felt more desperate than she ever had in her entire life. A deep despair was visible in her glimmering blue eyes. Lovable princess. From Chapter 8, Twisted Fate. This was crazy. She dropped the rattle that she was holding because she was suddenly reminded of a scene from a novel. Why did this unlucky scene from a book suddenly pop up in her brain? It was a book that she had snuck a look at when a middle school student had left it behind during her late-night shift. It was an immature and drab book that was fitting of its title. Was it because her name was the same as the unimportant princess who had died on her 18th birthday? Ugh, what a bad omen. Bad thoughts. Get out of my brain. What the heck? Why does she keep dropping it? A woman that had been soundly sleeping was startled up by the sound of a rattle hitting the floor. And she started to curse. Of course, I was baffled. What was she talking about? I didn't even drop it that much. And babies usually drop things easily, right? Please be quiet and play with this, miss. Wow. She was giving it to me without even wiping it. I didn't know if it was because the knowledge of cleanliness was poor in this world, or because she was looking down at me because I'm an outcast princess. It was probably the latter. Sob. I convinced myself that it wasn't.
Wah!
I dropped the rattle again. So the rude maid started to console me. I could tell she was annoyed. What's wrong? I'm busy because I'm sewing. Here, I'll pick it up for you. Don lick. I don't like this. It's dirty because I already dropped it twice, and it's not my taste. I know I look like this, but do you think I'd enjoy this with my current mental age? Is she tired of it? She placed me back in the crib and left. She probably went to the head maid. If you're gonna come back with a rattle again, just don't come back at all. Young. I lifted my hand in front of the spinning mobile and looked at it. What a light and chubby hand. I still couldn't get used to it. I had definitely fallen asleep after taking some sleeping pills, but when I woke up, I was in this body. Did this make sense? I mean, we're talking about real-life situations here. And from what I hear from the maids, I'm the princess of this land. This is completely crazy. Princess. That maid always does that. Does she have to barge in without knocking and start screaming? The head maid said we don't have enough funds. Just play with this. The maid forcefully put the rattle back into my hands and sat back in the chair to resume sewing. I'm not gonna soothe you if you start crying again. I really am busy. I'm a baby. Do you think I'll understand what you're saying? This was so unfair. I guess there were different levels of princesses. In my past life, I was an orphan, so it was nice that I was born as a princess. But did it have to be like this? I used to be an orphan. And Uni told me that I was found in front of an orphanage bundled up in clothes. She was 18 and about to leave the orphanage, and I was 5. I was abandoned without a name, so the manager of the orphanage named me Jai Hailey after finding the name in his contacts list. When I first found out, I was like, oh well. There were plenty of kids like me in the orphanage, and I couldn't miss my parents since I never had them. In the orphanage, children knew things that they shouldn't know at their age. I always had to fight for what I wanted in that crammed orphanage. So, when I was 18 and able to leave the orphanage like the uni who told me about my backstory, I felt a sense of freedom. But reality was harsh. I was an orphan who didn't have any money or connections. There was nothing I didn't do to earn money. I worked at a convenience store, wiped cars at a car wash, and washed dishes at a restaurant. I was pessimistic about my life. I wanted to go to school like everyone else, but my circumstances didn't allow me to. I was already overwhelmed from paying rent for a small apartment. In the middle of winter, it was so cold that my entire body felt frozen. I thought I would die from hypothermia because of the cold. I had already pulled several all-nighters because the freezing temperature wouldn't let me sleep. I begged the owner of the restaurant I was working for some sleeping pills and barely got them. Once I took them, a wave of sleep lapped at my brain, and I slowly forgot all the worries and concerns I had. And when I opened my eyes, I was a princess. Dada. Today, like any other day, I was trying to talk. All I did was eat and sleep, so I didn't even know how much time had passed. Sometimes, I thought I was dreaming. Our pretty little princess, Athanasia. But the one thing that comforted me was that not all the maids were mean. I widely grinned at the maid who was rocking my crib. She had brown hair and blue eyes. She looked like she was in her early 20s, and she became my exclusive maid. Why, you ask, do I only have maids and not a nanny? That's because I'm an outcast princess. Grow up nice and tall, my princess. When I first saw her, she was so pretty that I actually drooled. Her name was Lillian, and she could pass for a teenager with her looks. Wow, wasn't this a great stroke of luck that someone like her was my maid? But Lily's face was saddened. I became sad too, when I saw such a pretty face frowning. Lily often made this face when she looked at me. Lily, don't make that face. You're prettiest when you smile. Oh, my princess, it's time for you to sleep. I started to kick and whine. The sun was still in the sky, but she wanted me to sleep. I'll admit, I was tired since I was a baby, but not right now. Play with me some more. It's so boring here. No, I can't, my princess. You need to sleep well to grow up nice and tall. But my little act of rebellion didn't work. Lil Lane. Suddenly, a loud voice pierced into the room. Jeez, that maid was so loud. I was faint-hearted because I was a weak little princess. Lily frowned at the actions of the foolish maid. She softly stroked me because she thought I might have been scared. Princess, I'll be right back. I waved my hand to say bye. Although she probably couldn't tell what I was doing. I looked at the ceiling once I was alone. A fancy chandelier and a detailed design filled my view. When I turned my face a little, I could see shiny furniture and expensive-looking decorations. Every time I saw that, I wondered if it was real gold. Once my teeth grow in, I'll definitely try biting that to see. Of course, if I'm still alive by then. Wah! My entire body quivered when I heard rumors about the person who's supposed to be my dad. The only information I had about him was from the maids, but that guy was a total psycho. It was so obvious what kind of guy he was when I heard the maid Eunice whispering. The place that I lived was the Ruby Palace, and it was where the emperor's concubines lived. In other words, it was the emperor's harem. But for some reason, one day, the emperor killed everyone here. No one knew the reason why to this day. My mother, Diana, was a dancer who was invited to the emperor's royal banquet, and she had caught his attention, but afterwards, she was forgotten by him and birthed me. Diana was a lowly commoner, so she couldn't even be an official concubine of the emperor. Then she died, leaving me behind. And since then, the emperor's sole bloodline, me, has been abandoned here ever since. And so I was raised by the maids who were in the Ruby Palace. Now that I say it like that, it seems like we're a real mess of a family. No, all else aside, just what in the world is the emperor doing leaving his only child here? Anyways, so I was living in the castle where a violent massacre had taken place. Shiver. After first hearing that story, I had nightmares every night. You had to be really evil to put a baby like me in this place. However, I was more scared of the emperor I never met than this castle where literal horror stories took place. What if he was like, oh yeah, and suddenly came over to kill everyone here? I just got to be a princess, but my life was already really hard. Oh right, did I already mention my name? In my last life, the manager of the orphanage had given me a random name that he found in his contacts, but in this life, my mother had named me herself. And that name was Athanasia. It was a fancy name meaning immortal. Lillian told me last night, and I thought it was an extravagant name for an outcast princess like me. And it was also the same name as the unlucky princess in. My mother probably named me that so I would be able to hold my ground and survive against the emperor, but the Athanasia in the novel had died a tragic death at 18, and the name made me a bit uncomfortable. And she died by the hands of her own father. So, when I opened my eyes today, I kept on glancing over at the door in fear that my father was going to storm in. At that moment, the door suddenly opened and I was completely scared out of my wits. But thankfully, it was just my maids. The maid Eunice looked over at me like I was a complete nuisance. Sheesh, she's still not sleeping. Do we have to stay here? It's not like she can move. You know Lillian will make a big deal out of it. It's so annoying. There they go again. They always bully me like that. It's not like you're much better than me anyways, since you're stuck here too. We can just think of it as a break and leave later. What if she starts crying? Rock her cradle so she starts sleeping. Wow. If someone heard them, they would think I always cry. If there's a baby as nice and quiet as me, I'd like to see if there is one. Lillian was always worrying about me since I was always gurgling instead of crying, but these maids always said those things whenever they saw me. It was obvious they looked down on me because the emperor never sought for me. But was I sad? Of course not. My goal was to continue living like this. I would get along just fine with all the gold in this room. So please forget about me. Even if the emperor doesn't care about her, she gets to live a good life because she's a princess. And the grumbling maids were right. I still got 3 square meals a day, even if it was only infant formula. My bed was warm and soft. And most of all, there was gold everywhere. If I continued living like this, it wasn't too bad, 'cause I was still a princess. Once I grew a little bit older, I was going to run away with the gold. So first, let's just out of this crib first. Like Lillian said, I would eat well and sleep well to grow up faster. I kicked furiously to grow some strength in my legs. It's just a candle against the wind. Anyone could kill me right now. Yeah, I can't believe we were assigned here, did you hear? That a ghost appears every night in the kitchen. I just got goosebumps. We might end up like that too. The maids continued to whisper, glancing at me occasionally. It wasn't like I didn't understand them. Even I didn't like living in this palace where people were killed. I'll escape as soon as I gather the funds. I once again promised myself. Hee hee. I was feeling really good right now. As I laughed at the object in front of my face, Lily looked at me contently. Do you like it that much? Ah. Shiny gold. How pretty. I was so excited about the gold ball Lily gave me. I screamed in laughter and made cute gestures. Lily kissed my cheek as if she was happy. As time passed, I was able to crawl around the room. I look at the objects around me in greed. It seemed like a palace was definitely a palace. There was splendor everywhere, and it was overly fancier than it needed to be. But this was all real gold and jewels, right? As I kept trying to touch the gold decorations and jewels, Lily thought I liked shiny things. And after that, she brought me a gold rattle and a mobile. My eyes widened. The palace was fancy because people used to live here, but all my toys were poorly made because of the lack of money. I'll bring you something else once you get sick of it. Lily's pretty face looked even more beautiful today. I was playing with the ball. Lily brought me on the carpet. I wasn't able to walk yet, so Lily had placed me on the floor so I could at least roll around. I'll take good care of this ball so I can take it with me later. Hee hee. Oops, I drooled. The days in the place were peaceful. It seemed like the emperor really forgot about me. The maids were all nervous, but now they were all relaxed too. Although the ghost story about the ghost in the kitchen continued to be told. I hoped I could walk quickly. Then I'll be able to gather money to run away. I don't know if it was just me, but I kept on getting the feeling that the decorations in my room were disappearing one by one. Maybe they're storing it away because they think I might hurt myself by dropping it. No, no, no. Give me my gold back. Wah! I let out a loud cry while I was playing with my gold ball. My butt felt wet. It's embarrassing, but I gotta get my diaper changed. The magician of the tower is the strongest out of all the magicians. I was in Lily's lap, reading a fairy tale. But it wasn't just a fairy tale, it was basically a condensed history book with lots of images. I liked reading it since I was curious about this place, but usually kids my age didn't understand information like this. Seems like Lily's interested in early education. But the book Lily read to me was super interesting, so I was quietly listening. Especially the existence of magicians. There's magicians in this world. Wow. This world didn't seem normal, and it really wasn't. Oh wow. I pointed at an image in the book. There was a black top that was covered in thorny vines. They say that if the magician of the tower wants to, he can easily get rid of an entire empire. I was excited about hearing about magicians. I want to see magic. And that's why they intentionally freeze their own hearts. Finally, the boring history book seemed like a fairy tale. What Lily told me about the magician of the tower was super interesting. I had something else I definitely wanted to do. I'm going to see a magic with my own 2 eyes. I listened to the other stories Lily read to me with a pounding heart. Then something caught my eye. What's this? I pointed at the image in the novel. There was a man planting a sword in a large throne. Oh my, do you recognize this person? How am I supposed to know? Yes, you're right. It's your father, my princess. Wait, what? The bastard who completely abandoned his wife and daughter? Bad guy. Trash. I cursed at the man in the fairy tale. Ah, how clever of our princess. As I roughly pointed at the man in the picture, Lily stroked my head like she was proud of me. I couldn't read the letters, but based off of what Lily said, this person was the current emperor of the Obelia Empire. The image depicted him as a hero who got rid of the violent past emperor who had made a contract with the devil. I couldn't believe he had been shown as a just and divine emperor when he had killed everyone in his harem and completely neglected his daughter. I panted in rage. Oh, I've never told you his name. My face grew sour as Lily spoke. Would you like to see the picture again? Nope. I'm not one bit curious about that bad guy. But my face froze at the words in my ear. The father of Princess Athenisa is Emperor Claude de Algerobelia. My head was filled with question marks. What? What did you just say? She must have felt my curious gaze because she smiled again as she stroked my hair. And you, princess, are Princess Athenasia de Algerobelia. Huh. Even my full name is the same as the princess in that novel? I remembered the name because it was my first time reading a romance fantasy novel and seeing such a long name. Usually names of the royal family aren't repeated, but when the emperor saw you, he gave you the middle name. So you are definitely loved by the emperor right now. Wow, even that was the same. How uncomfortable. But was it just me, or did anyone else feel something was off? Haha. Let's see. How did the novel go? A Lovable Princess was a famous romance fantasy internet web novel. Or, that's what the middle school student who left If Behind said. I tried reading it when I was bored during work, and I didn't understand why. Like the title says, a lovable princess appears. The second princess of the Obelia Empire, Jeanette. There were two princesses in the novel, but one of them was just a tragic supporting character, and the main character was definitely Jeanette. She was an extremely beautiful princess with brown eyes and the exclusive blue eyes of the royal family. Jeanette was as beautiful inside as she was on the outside, so she was loved by everyone. Not just the citizens of Obelia, but all the males of the continent fell in love with Jeanette. And one of the people who loved her dearly was the emperor, Claude. Isn't it obvious that a father should love his daughter, you ask? Well, you don't know Claude. Claude was an extremely cold and rational person who killed his own father and the original heir to the throne, his brother, to become the emperor. Claude was revered as a savior because the past emperor always flung violence around, but that didn't mean he was nice. Evidence being that he massacred everyone who used to live here. But anyway, Jeanette was the lovely princess who managed to melt that cold human's heart. Claude discovered Jeanette's existence when she was 14. Until then, Jeanette resided at one of the three pillars of the empire, at the Duchy Alpheus family's home. Jeanette's mother, a marquise, was Claude's fiancée, but she died after getting kicked out from the palace during childbirth. So Jeanette's aunt, a countess by marriage, decided to ask the Alpheus family to take care of Jeanette because they owed her a favor. It was dangerous to reveal Jeanette's existence to the mentally unstable Claude. Slightly psycho. It was only after time had passed that he found out about her. Of course, Claude didn't feel affection for Jeanette right away. But what kind of person was Jeanette? She was the unrealistically lovely Princess Jeanette who had received the female lead buff. And so Claude eventually fell over to her charms. After that, Jeanette lived happily ever after with her powerful father on her side, and with Duke Ezekiel, the most eligible man in the continent, whom she had grown fond of during her stay at the Alpheus residence. Disgusting. How unlucky. Thinking of the novel, I angrily chewed the blanket that I had. Was it because she was someone who had never experienced hardships? After reading the novel, I immediately threw the novel down on the counter in frustration. Sheesh. Claude and Jeanette were real scoundrels. That was my review of A Lovable Princess. But wasn't the book awful? If you think about how Jeanette received the love of literally everyone while Athanasia was left out. Princess Athanasia with blonde hair and blue eyes, of the same age as Jeanette. Born from a lowly dancer mother, she experienced a completely different childhood than Jeanette. Unlike Jeanette, Athanasia's existence was delivered to Claude as soon as she was born, but he neglected her and put her in the Ruby Palace. And Athanasia grew up being scorned and ignored. So Athanasia grew up very weak, always having to care about what others thought of her. She first met her father on her 9th birthday. Her father was holding a ball for emissaries of foreign countries. He didn't even remember her birthday. Athanasia accidentally took a wrong turn after following the lights and sounds. She met Claude in the garden of the emperor's palace, and he walked right past her after seeing her. Starved for affection, Athanasia thought it was fate that she met him. Even before Jeanette appeared, she was depressed because of her father. But still, Athanasia did everything show could to be loved. So Athanasia grew up talented and accomplished, but on her debutante ball, Duke Alpheus presented Jeanette to the world and all her hopes were shattered. Athanasia was somewhat gloomy and dull compared to Jeanette, who was always full of sunshine. So in a way, it was inevitable that Jeanette would be more loved. As the story continued on, Athanasia became even more timid as Jeanette was emphasized as the perfect princess. How bad was it, you ask? Well, when Jeanette, who had arrived late to the party, first arrived at the palace, she had a hard time getting used to the palace life. Even Claude didn't pity her at that point, so the person who helped her was Athanasia. Gosh, what a stupid girl. She should have been worrying about her own life, not taking care of her rival. The naive Athanasia got Claude's love that she so desperately wanted taken from her by Jeanette, and she ended up being killed by her father. On the day of a grand ball, Jeanette was poisoned, and she was pointed to as the suspect. Actually, it was a false charge. It was a trap set up by Jeanette's aunt, the Countess, who considered Athanasia an obstacle in her niece's future to become the next empress. Athanasia wasn't even an obstacle, however, because she didn't get an ounce of attention from Claude. And most importantly, Athanasia wasn't bold enough to do something like that. If she had known the truth, she would have drunk the poisoned glass herself to save Jeanette. Because she knew that Claude would be sad if something went wrong to Jeanette. Athanasia was that pathetic and pitiful. All the Countess expected was Athanasia to be incarcerated or dethroned from her spot as the first princess. But what kind of person was Claude? While Jeanette was on death's door, he killed Athanasia, who wasn't even confirmed to be the culprit. It was her 18th birthday. It had been exactly 9 years since she first met Claude. Wasn't it quite ironic? Later, it was revealed that the Countess was actually the culprit, but Athanasia had already died, falsely charged. And Claude, who didn't love anyone other than Jeanette, felt no remorse for Athanasia. The angelic main character Jeanette felt responsible for Athanasia's death, and she was riddled with extreme guilt, but with the consolation of her lover, Ezekiel, she was able to move on. With the story ending happily ever after, you can only imagine how frustrated I was. I was getting angry just by thinking about it. I didn't know what the author was thinking by putting in that supporting character, just for her to die in vain. The middle school student, who was a passionate fan of the book, fervently said it was to emphasize Claude's love for Jeanette. And she continued to blabber on about how it was the epitome of romance fantasy novels and how it captured all the dreams of women perfectly. Of course, I didn't listen because it seemed like bullcrap. And it wasn't like I sympathized with Athanasia, it was that she was better than Claude or Jeanette. I did think that people should always prioritize themselves over others, but that was a separate matter. Why? Because I felt like I became Athanasia from the novel. I burst in tears because I felt sad again. I kept trying to convince myself it wasn't true, but there were limits in escaping from reality. There were too many similarities to that novel. Even if they're coincidences, how can they all be the same? I tried to ignore this uneasy gut feeling, but it wasn't easy. Princess. Lily opened the door at the sound of my anguished tears. Why is our princess crying? I buried my face in her familiar arms and kept crying. I was on an emotional roller coaster these days, and I became sadder when I saw Lily's face. Are you hungry? Lillian York. The only person who had believed in Athanasia's innocence until the very end in Lovable Princess. As a result, she had died along with Athanasia. Lillian was the second daughter of an influential Count family, so she didn't have to be Athanasia's maid. But she volunteered to be at the Ruby Palace and became a nanny to Athanasia. The reason was because of Athanasia's mother, who had passed away. Diana was a very charmful and wonderful woman with blonde hair, like the moonlight, and mysterious red eyes. Also, she was talented enough to perform a solo stage at a royal ball. Lillian, who was sick of the stuffy palace life, respected and admired Diana, who was free like a bird. But Diana ended up becoming Claude's one-night stand and locked up in the Ruby Palace. Wong. Claude, you piece of scum. As I cried louder, Lillian seemed to be flustered. Oh my, princess, what's wrong? I couldn't stop crying. No matter how much I thought about it, this was definitely the world of that novel. Lillian and Diana's friendship appeared in the novel only a few times, but I was deeply moved by it. A beautiful friendship, like the one I saw in End of Green Gables when I was invited to a birthday party. Yeah, I didn't have any friends. So that's why I was admiring such a beautiful princess. But in the end, Lily also died because she was on Athanasia's side. Is it time to change the diaper? Wait, I didn't pee. So it's not food or the diaper. No, my innocence. I began to twist my body as hard as I could after being forcefully undressed and starting to cry again. It wasn't like it was the first time experiencing it, but it still left me psychologically shocked. She's whining a lot these days. Lily was frustrated because she couldn't find out why I was crying. But I was as frustrated as her. I can't talk even if I want to in this situation. I have no dreams or hopes. Whether it was a reincarnation or possession, both didn't make sense. Wasn't this totally unfair? O Lillian, wherefore art thou Lillian? Wherefore art Diana Diana and Claude Claude? And wherefore art me Athanasia? Just why? I just wanna be Jeanette. I don't wanna be Athanasia. It's okay, princess. I'm here. I continued to cry upon hearing Lillian's consoling voice. The only solution was to leave this damned palace. Time. Please go by quick. It was a bright and sunny spring day. The flowers in the garden of the Ruby Palace weren't mended at all, and they grew by nature and bloomed fancily. I pattered down the hallway between the flowers and grabbed onto one of the maid Uni's dress skirt. Uni. Today was the day different vegetables, meats, and fish came into the palace, so she was definitely finished checking that to go do something else. At my call, the Uni looked down at me. I made a cute face complete with puppy dog eyes. Can Audie please have some chocolate? I am 5. This doesn't embarrass me. This doesn't, bullshit. How embarrassing. Cute princess, would you like some chocolate? Yeah, I like chocolate. Gimme a lot please. And the maid Uni touched her palm like she was persuaded by my cuteness and looked for something in her apron. Her name was Hannah, and she always had chocolate or candy to give me. You like chocolate that much? Yeah, I like chocolate. I like it this much. I drew a big circle over my head. It was a big embarrassing, but if I could get a quick snack, this was nothing. I like Hannah too. Oh my. Give me chocolate. Hannah, what are you doing? My plans to get some chocolate from the maid Uni were being disrupted.
Sí.
Didn't you hear what Ms. Lillian said? That we can't give the princess snacks whenever we feel like it. The maid Uni who had appeared at the end of the hall was a beautiful lady with a cold expression. This maid Uni's name was CES, and this wasn't the first time she foiled my plans to get snacks. But it's just one. But it's a problem because it's not just you who thinks that way.
No.
Don't get between me and my chocolate. CS was different from Hannah in that she emanated an icy aura, but I didn't give up. Uni. This time I pulled at Suz's dress skirt and attacked her with my shining eyes. Audie wants to eat chocolate. As I looked up with ever so pitiful eyes, the maid Uni started to waver. You can't, princess. But I know that your mind is shaking. You really can't. In the end, I won. A moment later, the maid Uni kneeled to be on my eye level and placed a fistful of chocolate in my hand. It's a secret from Ms. Lillian, okay? Lily, who was worried about my cavities, prevented me from eating sweets, so the fact that I took them from the maids was a secret amongst us. Thank you, Uni. I made a big smile as I kissed her cheek. I saw her loosening at my cuteness. See, this Uni only looks cold. She actually has a warm heart. Yay. A cold beauty who is only nice to me. It's nice. Hey, CS, that's unfair. You did this on purpose, right? Humph. What are you talking about? Do you think I'm like you and have secret motives for doing things? Then, why are you giving it to the princess? The princess's kiss was mine. The two started to fight behind me. I started to run away before Lily saw me. It felt like a dine and dash, but not getting caught by Lily was the most important. Time flowed quickly, and I was already 5 years old. Lily always nagged at me not to speak with honorifics to the workers or be friendly with them, but this was my way of survival. And what was elegance to an outcast princess anyway? The maid Unis who ignored my efforts now gave me snacks and initiated conversations with me, so I could say I was successful. Usually, if maids initiated conversation, it was blasphemy against the royal family, but in my palace, we didn't have such rules. I decided to buy their goodwill when I could walk. Before that, the maids were so annoying that I accidentally spilled water on them or played jokes on them, but I realized that it was more beneficial to me to be nice. I was barely hanging on to my life because of Claude, so there was no reason to listen to them speak behind my back as well. If this continued, there wasn't anything different from the original story. The deciding factor in me being nice to them was because I discovered that things really were disappearing from my palace. Everyone who worked here was from a noble family, but they were all powerless nobles like barons or viscounts. At first, they were all afraid of Claude when they were first assigned here, but when they realized Claude didn't care an ounce about me, they started to slowly take things, one by one. And they felt more emboldened to do so because there weren't any more women coming to the Ruby Palace or Claude's harem. At first it was hard to tell, but then it became so obvious that if you couldn't notice, you were most likely blind. They even started taking the decorations and jewels on the wall. Wow, these people. I guess they felt invincible since Claude hasn't been killing anyone these days. I noticed before Lily that things were disappearing from my room. Because every day I observed my room, looking for things to steal away. But my plate was slowly becoming smaller and smaller. I wanted to tell on them to the emperor, but it wasn't like I could go up to him and say, "Daddy." They looked down on me, and he would ask, who looked down on my precious daughter? Rather, he would have been like, "You are still alive, and take my life right there." Oh, of course, this could all just be in my head. But I didn't want to gamble on my life, because I matter. So I had to do nothing and watch my gold disappearing. All I could do as the maid Unis came into my room and slip something like a gold plate into their apron was vehemently wail. But once Lily noticed, she became wildly enraged and went to the head maid herself to fix the problem. I could slightly tell from the fact that the other maids used honorifics when Lily was around and that she brought me the gold ball, but Lily was probably the most powerful person in the Ruby Palace, even including me. So those maids were kicked out of the palace. They were supposed to return what they stole, but I never got any of it back. I was suspicious of the head maid, but there wasn't anything I could do except cry, so I couldn't do much. I could tell something was off about her from when she said she couldn't get me a mere rattle because we didn't have enough money. If there was a silver lining, it was that there were so many missing things that no one noticed when I took a few more. No, let me rephrase that, since technically this is my palace. I was just keeping it safe. Yeah, I'm safekeeping my precious jewels and gold. But there were limits to that too. Because it seemed like Lily was carefully looking around the palace these days. Even I could tell the palace looked emptier than usual. Did I gather too much? If Lily saw the incident from 3 years ago was repeating itself and searched the palace, I have to stop for a while. Princess, where are you going? Hee hee. I'm going to see Lily. Ho ho. Before that, we better wipe your mouth. Was the chocolate good? Then, the passing maids wiped my mouth with their handkerchief. On the handkerchief, there were clearly visible chocolate stains. I guess I ate it in a hurry to finish them all before Lily came. The maids chuckled, but I became embarrassed. I can't believe I did something like that considering my mental age. It's a secret that Audie ate chocolate. Of course, princess. But I was more scared of being scolded by Lily than being embarrassed. I waved to the unis and quickly fled from the scene. Geez, the chocolate was even on my hands. I was gonna wipe it on my dress, but held back because the dress was white. It's okay. There were places I could wash my hands, like a fountain. Of course, it wasn't in a good condition, but I passed a few more maids before I got to the fountain. The naked statue on the fountain was so seductive that it was more of a coquette than an angel. But all the statues in the palace were like this. Was it because this was where the concubines lived? It wasn't a good place for kids. Of course, I got to see eye candy every day, so it was good for me. Flash. I washed my chocolate-covered hands in the fountain. I couldn't go down to the lake in this body, so I had to settle with standing on my tiptoes in front of the fountain. But when I leaned over, I must have been careless because I almost fell in. I fumbled because I was surprised, but I saw a clear reflection of myself in the water. I stopped moving and dazedly looked at myself. Pretty. It sounds like narcissism, but I was a little bit too beautiful. Wow. I can't believe this cute and pretty baby was me. If this child was in front of me, I would want to bite their cheeks because it was so cute. My fist-sized face had the perfect pinchable cheeks. My naturally curly hair was soft without being too frizzy, and I had big eyes and even longer eyelashes. It was a face that would have succeeded as a child actor or model. My hair and overall features resembled Diana, but my eyes were from Claude. I lost track of time looking into my eyes. Hee hee. I was definitely a beautiful baby, but my eyes were on a different level. Lily said my eyes were the jewel eyes that were passed down the royal family, and the author of Lovable Princess had described Jeanette's eyes with lots of praise. When I first read the book, I thought it was an immature description, but seeing the eyes for myself, the description was true. When the light shone from different angles, my eyes changed color. There wasn't anything as mystical or awe-inspiring like this. I heard that only Claude and I had these eyes. But that was wrong, because Jeanette, who was receiving an abundant amount of love in the Alpheus family, existed as well. No, but I still didn't lose hope that maybe this world was different. Anyways, I heard that everyone had their own magic in this world, but the magic structure of the royal family was so unique that this was why they had these colored eyes. Princess, watch out. Suddenly, someone lifted me. I was surprised for a second, but I realized who it was right away. I said not to go around alone and you didn't listen to me. I hugged Lily and beamed at her. I missed you, Lily. Lily let out a sigh at my flattery. She still had the youthful face from 4 years ago. I tended to like people with pretty faces, so I always acted cute in front of Lily. Princess, you ate chocolate today too, didn't you? Oh. My smile froze. How did she find out? I heard from Hannah. No more sweets for 1 week. New. I can't believe I can't eat chocolate for a week. Hannah, you betrayer. But no matter how hard I tried to make my face pitiful, Lily didn't change her mind. A moment later, I was picking flowers in the palace garden. Princess, could I have a flower too?
No.
Bad. Hannah had traded shifts with someone, and she was following me around because she didn't have anything in particular to do. I could tell she was getting bored. Hannah always adored me when giving me snacks, but it looked like she wanted the flower in my hand. If it was any other time, I would have given it to her right away, but today was different. Because she told Lily about me eating chocolate. Hannah said it wasn't intentional and Lily had heard her and CS arguing about CS stealing my kiss, but that didn't change what had happened. The princess is unfair. Even when Hannah was making crying noises, I pretended not to hear and pick flowers. I was going to make a flower crown for Lily. Actually, it was more like I was gonna bribe her into doing something about my chocolate ban. I was gathering white flowers, but I realized it looked kind of dull. A bright-colored flower would do the trick. Hannah, what color flower do you think would fit? Hannah brightened when I stopped the silent treatment. Ha, she really adores me. You're giving it to Ms. Lillian, right? I think blue or purple would be nice. Maybe yellow too. Hannah was seriously thinking and said that she would look for more flowers somewhere else. I decided to look through the garden by myself. I guess it would be nice to make a flower crown for Hannah too. Gosh, I was so nice. But I knew how much Hannah liked me, so I decided to stop with the tantrum. Flowers live together in the flower field. I started to sing a children's song as I looked for flowers. We lived together in the kindergarten. And after a while, I realized I wasn't in the Ruby Palace anymore. Oh, where is this place? I spun around, completely flustered. I had been mindlessly walking around the flower field and found myself here. I knew the palace was big, but not this big. And it wasn't like I could find my way back, because I hadn't been walking in one direction. For the first time since I entered this world, I didn't know what to expect. Let's calm down. Since my area in the palace was big, I could probably see it from here. I was right. When I lifted my head, I saw the wall of a castle. I quickly scurried over with flowers in my arms. What this? The place I arrived wasn't the Ruby Palace. It was an empty place. There wasn't a single hair visible. No, it was much more empty than my palace. Did no one use this place? It seems clean, but there's not even a single rat here. I was completely baffled because I had only been trying to find pretty flowers, but I ended up here. Wait, no one uses this palace? Oh ho! My eyes widened. If no one used this palace, I could use it, right? I was looking for a place to hide my treasure, and this was a perfect place. There were limits to hiding it in my palace. And I felt uneasy because Lily had gone to meet the head maid this morning. I quietly examined the entire place. And I started to tiptoe to not make a sound as possible. After a short exploration, I found that the palace was clean, but there really wasn't a single ant here. If so, I only had to be careful when maids came to clean here. It was probably one of the palaces the past emperor used. And it was close to my palace too. My luck really was amazing. And this abandoned palace became my secret hideout. I've been thinking, but 4 years ago, I probably died after taking the sleeping pills. And since it was the middle of winter without any heating units on, I probably froze to death.
Yang.
Well, it's not like I missed that life or anything, especially since I was an orphan. If someone told me to go back, I absolutely wouldn't. Actually, novel aside, if you looked at it logically, this was a pretty good place. I got meals, a house, and I didn't have to work for a single thing. And with the possession buff that I got, I could understand the language of this world the day I opened my eyes.
Li.
I happily smiled holding the paper that had scribbly words on it. The level of education in this world was low, and kids my age learning to write was unheard of. My goal was to quietly live without attracting too much attention, but I was completely doomed. Lily and the maids looked at me in shock, like I was the genius of the century. Our clever princess. And after that, they started to officially educate me. The maids that used to adore me were burning with a passion to teach me things, and they started teaching me basic manners. I learned later on, but children usually started learning manners when they were 8. I'm sincerely happy that I can be by Princess Athanasia's side. It pricked my conscience that I was considered a genius when all I was the possessor of this body. But I didn't mean to. So I intentionally got grammar wrong and spilled tea to appeal that I wasn't smart. It seemed like it wasn't working though. Audie is so happy to be with Lily too. The silver lining was that the Ruby Palace was pretty isolated, so news from inside didn't spread to the outside. That was a big relief. Because I'm not gonna meet Claude when I'm 9 years old, and I'm gonna leave before I turn 18. I'll do anything to avoid Claude. I don't know where it is, but I won't even look at the Emperor's palace. It was probably the fanciest and extravagant of them all since it was where the Emperor lived, right? I just had to avoid that kind of building. Princess, would you like some milk? Yeah. I don't like it cold. Yes, I'll prepare warm milk for you. Once Lily left the room, I got up from the floor where I had been writing letters. And I got out 2 pouches that I had prepared beforehand from under my bed. The pouches that I had gotten from Hannah by using my puppy eyes contained the funds I have saved up so far. Once I made sure the weight of the pouches were about the same, I quickly lifted my dress. I could see my cute baby underclothes in the shape of pumpkin pants. I quickly tied the pouches to my thighs before Lily got back. I had asked for warm milk to buy some time, but I was still short. Why won't this be tightly tied? I tried to think of all the methods I could safely get my treasure out without anyone noticing, but this was the only way. Done. With my chubby fingers, I had managed to barely tie a knot, and I got up from where I was sitting. It was heavy for my body, but I could still do it. If I did this several times, I could probably get all my funds out in a day. The reason why Lily went to meet the head maid was to talk about cleaning the entire palace. She probably wanted to fix some things up since I had grown up a bit. Considering the personality of the head maid, it would be hard to get some extra help from her, but the head maid had to say yes because of the rules in place of the palace. After Lily told me, I had shivers down my back. I needed to quickly carry out my plans. So I was planning on sneaking out of my palace under the pretense of a nap. By pretending to fall asleep, I found that Lily doesn't enter my room when I'm taking a nap. Probably because she knew that once I fell asleep, I would only wake up when I was woken up by someone else. Princess, have sweet dreams. When Lily thought I had fallen asleep, she kissed my cheek and quietly left the room. I laid in bed for a while listening to the sounds outside, and I slowly opened my eyes. Ouch! My legs were under the pouches. Because the items inside the pouches were hard and sturdy, my legs would probably have markings on them. It was hard to move my little pretties to safety. I closed the door as quietly as I could and left the palace. I had run through simulations of the maids working and knew all their trajectories, so I was able to get to the garden without being caught. But it was okay to get caught as long as it wasn't Lily who caught me. I hurried my feet past the flower field. I knew which way I had to go because I had investigated beforehand. But it was definitely not easy to run with this body, especially with the extra weight. I finally arrived at my destination, legs shaking. Crap. I felt like I was gonna collapse. But I only had 2 hours, so I had to move quickly. First I untied the strings, and I ran to the place I planned to put my treasures. If I put it inside the building, something could happen, so I was going to bury it under a trustworthy-looking tree. But there was a problem. I don't have anything to dig the ground. The earth was hard because it hadn't rained in a while, and my soft hands couldn't do it. Also, if I had soil on my hands, I would get caught by Lily. What to do? I struggled for a bit, and I decided to hide my babies in a bush. I would have to come back tomorrow to properly bury it. I'll ask Hannah for a play shovel. When I went back, it was easier because I was lighter. I made eye contact with a maid on the way to my room and almost peed my pants, but she thought I was just visiting and didn't think too much of it. It was a good thing I usually wandered around my palace. I returned to my room, and I felt like I was gonna die because I was so exhausted. Our princess, time to wake up. Okay. I was actually really tired, so I moaned from the stress. Lily thought it was because I was still sleepy. HM? Why are you drenched in sweat? At Lily's surprised voice, I froze. Sadly, a perfect crime was too much for me. You seem to have a slight fever. Do you have anywhere that hurts? Yeah. It's hot. The sun is so bright. Lily glanced around my room and swiped the sweat on my forehead with the back of her hand. Starting from tomorrow, I'll open the window or close the curtains. This room does seem a little hotter since it's facing south. Audie wants milk. Cold, please. You already drank some before your nap. Despite saying that, Lily left the room to get some cold milk. And once I was completely alone, I fell back in my bed. After that, I left the Ruby Palace about 2 more times. I thought I might get caught by Lily, and it was tiring going out every day, so my secret absence took place once in a few days. I was able to move faster because I had gotten used to it. Although it couldn't be helped that it felt like I was running while lugging heavy tires behind me. I felt skeptical of myself while I did this. Truthfully, life in the Ruby Palace was so nice that I wanted to keep living here forever. But there was a bomb that could go off at any second called Claude. No matter how nice life was, I couldn't put my life at stake, right? So these babies, they were my insurance. Yeah, so I would be able to leave the palace whenever I needed to. I followed the flower field for the 5th time. And soon, I walked into the quiet palace that was no different than any other day. But today, I didn't go straight to the garden and went to a place that I had my eye on from last time. I wasn't sure what it was because I saw it from far away, but they were indeed angel statues. They were in various sizes and shapes. Some were even taller than me, and they were all made of gold. Gosh, everything in my palace was marble, but this gold? I was exhilarated. There were so many statues that no one would notice if one went missing. Once I got older, I would be able to swipe one of these. But this is real gold, right? I examined a statue that was close to me in all its nooks and crannies and bit into the butt of it, since my teeth were pretty strong now. But suddenly, I felt someone's presence behind me. I was frozen with my teeth still biting the butt. When did insects like these start living in my castle? A cold voice entered my frozen ears. My whole body shivered when I heard this voice. I turned around instinctively and stepped back, bumping into a statue. When had he gotten this close? 2 people had soundlessly approached, and one of them was so far away that I couldn't see his face, but he seemed to be a knight based off of his outfit. And the person in front of me was Crash. Once I confirmed his face, my body lost its strength. As the pouches in my hands fell to the floor, its contents spilled out. The funds I steadily gathered for 3 years are all sparkling on the floor. The man standing in the back looked down at them with a strange expression. But the man in front of me didn't look elsewhere and kept his eyes on me. That face, his low voice and coldly glimmering eyes pierced through me. Mysterious eyes that had a strange color. It was like looking at a mirror, but his eyes didn't have any expression, so they looked like real jewels. I feel like I've seen it before. I had never seen his face before, but I knew at a glance. Gold hair scattered by the wind. The eyes that only the royal family had. The expressionless face looking at me, and a beastly aura.
Claude de Alger-Obélia.
She was Athanasia's father, and the emperor this land. Yes, the dancer from Sayadona. You look like her. At the unexpected meeting, no words came out of my mouth. My head became blank. Is this what people called a mental stupor? This guy, he's that one. The one that kills Athanasia when she's 18. No, but why was he in front of me right now? I'm 5 right now. And this isn't even the garden of the emperor's palace. Claude, who seemed to be in his mid-20s, quietly looked down at me. Well, it doesn't matter. I couldn't even afford to be curious about what that meant. I blankly looked at the man who slowly raised his hand. Your Majesty, and the knight that had been standing behind him called out in a calm voice. I looked stupidly at the hand extended to me, and his hand stopped midair. It seemed like his emotionless eyes were discerning my face again. Unbelievably, a faint smile appeared on the face of the man who had been emanating a certain light. Now I remember. His eyes changed from a black to a deep navy color. The name that girl gave you. And I let out the breath I had been holding when he said my name. It was Athanasia. To me, it sounded like a death sentence. My heart that had stopped beating from shock was now palpitating like it had just realized the situation. You were a blood-covered thing that couldn't even protect its life. So Claude had met Athanasia 5 years ago. That thing's name is Athanasia? In the novel, it said Claude first met her when she was 9, but their first meeting was actually right after she was born. And that day, the Emperor Claude had given her his middle name because her name amused him. Because names to do with immortality were only given to those who would be the next emperor. And those names could only be given by the emperor, so that's why Jeanette's name meant God's blessing, not immortal or forever. That was why Jeanette's aunt considered Athanasia an obstacle. But a mere dancer had given her daughter the name Athanasia, the name of an empress. She was definitely a brave person. It's amusing. And the reason why Claude had given her his middle name wasn't because of his affection for her, like Lily said. That day, he had gone to find Athanasia to kill her. I'm curious if she'll really be able to live up to her name. Wow, then I was looking at someone who wanted to kill me. Shit, I had read the book so I knew that he was a character, but it was different than actually meeting him. You've grown a lot. You've grown a lot. That didn't mean that it was time for her to die since she had already grown to this much, did it? He just passed by the 9-year-old Athanasia without a glance at her. What about my plan to leave the palace before I turned 18? And while I was thinking all kinds of thoughts, something slipped from my legs and fell to the ground. Clang. All three of us looked at the source of the sound. Shining jewels were revealing their existence, and the pouch that Hannah had sewn a cute rabbit on was really quite cute. Oh shoot, I was done for. I thought that the strings around my leg were loose today, but this happened. I couldn't believe my baby's number 7 and 8 got caught like this. I broke out in a sweat and sideways looked at the two people. Claude had an unreadable expression. He was alternating his gaze between me and the jewels. And a moment later, he walked towards me. And suddenly, he lifted me by holding me under my armpit. I looked into the eyes that were now on the same height as me. I was so surprised that what I was going to say got caught in my throat like a rock. You're heavy. I thought your cheeks were on the verge of exploding, but I didn't know you would be this heavy. This crazy bastard. How dare you talk to a woman about her weight? I'm not heavy at all. No, other than that, why are you talking to me //? You're the cold dictator father. You only love Jeanette. But what were you doing in my palace? My face crumbled when I heard what he said. His palace? Well, technically, all the palaces in the imperial palace were his. But based off of his loungewear, this was probably the palace that he actually used. I had stepped into a minefield. Was this the Emperor's palace? But it's emptier than the Ruby Palace. This was crazy. Claude looked past me. Sweat dripped down my back because I knew what was behind me. His knight turned his expression to the butt of the angel statue that had the markings of a bite on it. It seems like she thought it was a toy, sir. Ack, are you gonna kill me? Huh? Because I entered your castle without permission? Because I left bite marks on your angel statue? I guess you got lost because you were busy playing. I was still in shock that I didn't register him turn while carrying me. Felix. Yes, your majesty. Hold it. My body was swapped arms midair without my consent. The knight who held me was quite good-looking, but as he looked at my face, I saw a mix of surprise and confusion. It was expected that he was surprised since Claude just handed me over like that. We looked at each other with shaking eyes. I'll have to have some tea with the guest. And Claude's words came as a great shock to me. What kind of situation was this? My back was wet from all the sweat. Was I really in a closed-off room having tea time with Claude? With this guy who was gonna kill me in the future? Shoot. I made eye contact with him. I quickly cast my eyes down because I thought he might kill me if I didn't. Claude was the only one who seemed perfectly fine with this situation. The night Appa, one, shifted his feet and didn't know where to look. I hadn't heard you were deaf. As Claude lifted the cup from the table, I hiccuped from his words. It's not fun because you're too quiet. I thought it would be fun, but it's not, so now I'll kill you. Is that what he was trying to say? I didn't expect a warm welcome, but he regarded me like I was some kind of object. Yup. I was drinking tea with him right now, but I could be killed any moment. Have you always been deaf? Audie can talk. Hee hee. I tried to fix a smile on my face. What could I do? I had to do whatever he asked of me. He wasn't making any notions to kill me, but I was scared from all the stories the maids had told about him. Now you speak. Why did you not open your mouth until now? He kept on asking these questions like a 5-year-old was supposed to answer them. What was I supposed to say? That I couldn't talk because I was scared. The night Appa saved me from replying. Your Majesty, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I heard children of that age are shy. Really? Yeah. What reason needed to exist for a child to be shy? Also, children and adults alike would both be speechless in front of you. But when our eyes met again, I pretended like I didn't know anything and just laughed. Just send me back, please. Claude leaned back in the chair with his eyes still on my face. He looked like a lion taking a break. In front of him, I was easily captured prey, like a bunny or some other helpless animal. Felix. Yes, Your Majesty. Leave. The knight was forced out of the room. It seemed like Claude didn't like how he answered for me. Wait, Appa, you're leaving me in here like that? But what kind of power would the knight have? Despite my desperate eyes, he just looked at me pitifully before leaving. Seems like Audie is a nickname. I didn't even know what I said earlier, but I guessed I had spoken, out of habit, the way I converse with the maids. Athanasia. Athanasia. I became nervous again when he mumbled my name. Do you know what your name means? It wasn't a good sign that Claude was entered in my name. The fact that he had saved me because of my name was a double-edged sword that might cut me. The fact that he would let me live twice because of my name was unimaginable. Because even Claude himself didn't have the name of an emperor. That was because Claude wasn't next in line to be emperor. He was only emperor by killing his father and brother. The past emperor's name was Aaeboom, and the crown prince was Anastasius. They both had meanings of immortality. The first queen of Obelia, Ambrose, also had that name. Putting it bluntly, Claude was the only ruler in history to not have the special name. Hopefully Claude didn't think that my name was uncomfortable and tried to kill me. I tried to make an innocent and helpless face. I am not harmful to you. I don't want to be a ruler. I just want to live quietly and die quietly. That's my goal in life. My name was overly extravagant, but in reality, I am just a leech mooching off of you. What are you doing? Go ahead and eat. Claude didn't seem to want to kill me just yet, but he probably wasn't going to send me back to the Ubi Palace that easily. I didn't know if it was a good or bad thing, but his next words made me realize this was a bad thing. I intentionally asked them to bring food that children like. If you don't eat, I have no choice but to punish those you brought these. Thank you, I'll eat it well. This rude bastard just threatened me, didn't he? I held a fork in my trembling hands. The table was full of delicious-looking foods, but I lost the will to eat. Rather, I felt like I was going to throw up. But I could not eat it, because then the servants would be killed, like the massacre that happened at the Ruby Palace. And on the list of people that were killed, my name was probably on it too. Tastes good. I could tell my face was pale, even without looking in a mirror, but I forced myself to eat. I didn't even know what was happening anymore. Who taught you manners? Lily taught me. I was faithfully answering Claude's questions despite the immense fear I felt. As Claude answered after thinking for a while, I was surprised. You must be meaning Lillian York. I just said Lily, but how did he know? I guess that fearless maid who tried to block me 5 years ago is still by your side. Lily had that kind of a past? When was 5 years ago? Was it when she met Athanasia? But what did blocking Claude mean? I first heard your name through that maid. What? Then the person who saved Athanasia was Lily? Since he had only let her live after hearing her name. Wow, Lily was my favorite character in this damned book. She and your mother are probably the only people to block me and not have been killed by me. I think I'm going to die. He was definitely speaking in a calm voice, but I don't know why I was still cold. He quietly looked at me eat the cake. Do you know who I am? The moment I heard that, I dropped my fork on my plate. If I wasn't sitting, I might have fallen down. My dry mouth was shaking as I met his eyes again. I wanted to turn away, but I couldn't. This was a test. He didn't bring me here out of goodwill. I had thought it was weird that he brought me here. This situation was just a simple change. It was a chance given for amusing him. He was going to decide again today if I lived or not. Did Athanasia from the novel go through the same thing, even if it wasn't written in the novel? His blue eyes peered inside me, and there was an elevated boredom in them. I started to become anxious. If I didn't answer properly, I would die here. He tapped his wrist as if signaling the passing time. And when I spoke, his hand stopped. Abba Mama. Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe I said that out loud. Pleasure say goodbye to Lily and the maids for me. I shouldn't have said that. What was I thinking, calling the psycho emperor Abba Mama? I should have just asked him to kill me instead. Did I think I was the real Athanasia, because the maids kept on calling me princess? I should have flattered him by saying something like Your Great Majesty or something like that. But shockingly, Claude didn't kill me. He stroked his cheek as if telling me to go on. I didn't fail. But wait, didn't Claude like Jeanette's style? The bright and beautiful Jeanette who always surrounded by light. And she was different from Athanasia, who watched Claude from afar because Jeanette went towards him first. If so, I could be like Jeanette, although I couldn't replace her, but if it was just for amusement. I decided to say some crazy things while I was at it.
Papa.
A deadly atmosphere that gave me goosebumps surrounded me. I was holding my breath while Claude slowly tilted his head. His gold hair shined as he moved. My heart was beating like I ran a marathon. Why? Why wasn't he having any response? Let's just do it. I put on the biggest smile I could and shouted.
Papa.
Did I just hold up the death flag? Someone tell me something. In conclusion, I survived. If I explain in detail, I finished all the remaining cakes with Claude watching me, and the night Appa carried my back to my palace. While I was fighting for my life, the Ruby Palace was in chaos. I was supposed to be taking a nap, but I had suddenly disappeared, so it was inevitable that everyone would be surprised. Lily saw me in the arms of the Emperor's knight and almost fainted. Her face was so pale that I seriously worried about her. She took me from his arms and moved far away from him, like he carried a deadly disease. I couldn't tell because my face was buried in her chest, but I could tell what kind of expression she had from her trembling. Lily held me tight with her shaking arms. When I lifted my head, I saw Felix bewildered at being treated like a kidnapper. But I didn't want to take his side, since he left me and Claude alone. I almost cried tears of blood when I thought back to the time with Claude. These bastards. How dare you bully a weak child like me? Hope you go to hell. The Emperor said that he will come ask for Princess Athanasia soon. What did you say? Not only was it just me, but everyone pulled back in astonishment. But why does everyone have fearful and half-happy faces? Were they glad that the outcast princess was getting attention from the Emperor? I wasn't some kind of concubine who just waited for the Emperor to call me. But why was he going to ask for me? Nothing ever went the way I wanted it to. When Felix dropped that bombshell and left, the palace was once again in chaos, but for another reason. Keck. I threw up because I was so emotionally tired. Princess. That night I lay in bed making new plans. Plan A failed. I crumpled the note in my hand that I wrote in Korean, so no one could read it. I scribbled out the words on the top of the paper. My first plan, Plan A, was to live like this at the Ruby Palace without getting noticed by Claude forever. I thought the only time Athanasia would see Claude was on the night of her 9th birthday. But that was a naive thought. The moment I saw Claude, this plan was done for. Who would have known he lived in such a simple palace? And why was the harem so close to the emperor's palace? It seemed like Obelia's emperors lived quite a life. I looked at the next line on the paper. Plan B. Leave the palace before I turn 18 and collect funds until then. This one was still possible. Since Claude killed Athanasia when she was 18. I couldn't be sure that that was the same since the time I met Claude had been pulled forward by 4 years, but Claude was probably gonna keep me alive for the time being. Would my plan to gather my pretties like that be able to continue? When I left the palace, I would have to leave as a maid or some other way. Well, I'll keep this plan for now. And the last plan, Plan C. Pick up Claude's heart by acting cute. When I read what I wrote, I could already feel the stress piling up. I needed to escape from reality. I can't believe I was planning on picking up Claude, of all people. But even if I can't make him love me, couldn't I at least make him not want to kill him? And he sent me back with my head intact when I called him Papa. I was debating whether or not I should erase that, but I just crossed my arms and looked at it with a forehead creased. But this isn't completely impossible, is it? I kicked the blanket high in the air as embarrassment overcame me. Did I really say Papa? The fact that I have to keep doing this in the future is more embarrassing. I continued cringing over the fact that I called him Papa, and I lifted my head from the pillow as I came to a decision.
Okay.
Then let's carry out both Plan B and C. Better to have more backup plans. I got rid of the paper in case Lily came. And the embarrassment that would come while I carried out these plans, I would just think of it as an investment for the future. Princess, it's time to sleep. Lily, come sing for me. And I swallowed my blood of tears by listening to Lily. Lillian York, it's been a while. I didn't know why time went by so fast when you didn't want it to. 10 days had passed since my tea time with Claude, and he was in front of me again. Blessings and glory upon the son of Obelia. One thing that comforted me was the fact that Lily was with me this time. Sorry, Lily, but Claude is too scary. I feel like I'll get a heart attack any minute now. I was definitely in the body of a 5-year-old seeing from how intimidated I was by Claude. In the receiving room that was as big as a basketball court, there was me, Lily, Claude, and the knight, Felix. I had noticed this before, but there weren't a lot of people around the emperor. I was busy with the duties of being an emperor that I haven't been able to concern myself with the one and only princess. But Athanasia has grown up well, thanks to you. It is an honor. Ha, don't lie. You weren't busy, you just didn't care. And that's not all. You completely forgot I existed. Now, I myself will take care of the princess, so don't worry. I heard thunder rumbling over my head. Claude was still sitting on the throne smiling at me. What? He was smiling. But it wasn't a warm smile because he thought I was cute. It was a malicious smile as if asking me what I was gonna do next. I'll take back what I said earlier. Thank you for forgetting about me all this time. Please continue to forget about me. I'd be grateful if you move me out from the royal family too. But I was just a weak citizen, so I couldn't do anything. I saw Lily's eyes shaking at the emperor's words too. From today on, Athanasia will exercise her rights as princess. But you don't acknowledge me as your daughter. The Claude in the novel had said he never once considered Athanasia his daughter. I didn't know if he was joking or not. Just what in the world was he thinking? And Lily seemed to be thinking the same thing as me. Even after leaving the throne room, her face was still deathly pale. "It's okay, princess." I heard her quiet whispering voice, and I hoped so too. "You've gained weight since the last time I saw you." And after some more time had passed, Claude and I were the same. It had only been 5 days since he saw me. There was no way I had gained that much weight. Hee, Papa is pretty too. Claude and I met 2 more times, and during these times, I realized he wouldn't kill me just because I asked sassy and confident. On the contrary, the more I appeared scared, the more emotionless his face became. It was the scariest when Claude looked at me with a bored expression. It could have been in my head, but I thought Claude was just keeping me alive for amusement. And right now, I felt scared to death. I could see Lily be surprised from the side of my eyes after what I said. But as expected, Claude didn't kill after what I said. "Come follow me." He narrowed his eyes at me and turned around. Then Lily and Felix let out the breaths they had been holding. I felt that the string that was holding onto my life was growing thinner by the second. I was just about to go boating, so get ready. What did you mean, get ready? Also, just about my ass. He called me here at this time. I can't believe he was pretending it was a coincidence that I arrived at this time. If I needed to get something ready beforehand, he would have asked me, so what he really meant was probably to shut up and follow him. "Your Majesty, I apologize, but the princess and water. She'll be with me, so what's the problem?" That was the problem. Lily, who had courageously spoken up to Claude, looked at me with anxious eyes. It was clear she was worrying about me because she couldn't come along. "Don't do that, Uni. What if he does something to you for speaking up?" To be honest, I didn't want to go with him either. What if he suddenly decided he was bored and threw me overboard? But that damned bastard stopped in place and asked me, "Do you not want to come with me?" No. Audie wants to go with Papa. I once again smiled brightly to show that I meant no harm. Lily's face paled again at my words, but there wasn't anything I could do. So I ended up feeling like I was being pulled to my execution and followed Claude to the lake. I floated on a boat in the lake in the middle of the imperial palace with Claude, an exhausted expression on my face. But this boat, it was really quite nice. It was smooth, and it didn't bump around. Wait, but neither of us were rowing. How was the boat moving? Was there a motor? Or maybe there were slaves rowing for us somewhere under me. What are you thinking about? Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. I was going to say the weather's nice, or the lake is pretty, but I decided to flatter him instead. Papa's hair is twinkle twinkle. Pretty. It was true that his hair was pretty. I liked my light blonde hair, but Claude's dirty blonde hair was more my style. I like twinkle twinkle. Hee. Claude lightly smiled upon hearing my words. No, wait. When he laughed like that, it was foreboding of something. You had that jewel pouch with you that day. Hole in one. Player Athanasia isn't able to properly function. I'm taking good care of your treasure, so come to take it yourself next time. This was bad. I was already devastated from leaving it behind, but to think that Claude had it. As I remained silent, Claude looked like he was getting bored again. He turned his eyes away from me to look at the far side of the lake. I was able to observe him easier than I was before. Where did his clothes come from? Egypt? Greece? I don't know. But his clothes looked good on him. Last time I thought he was like a lion, but sitting here in the sun, he looked like a sunbathing puma. Of course, whatever he looked like, it always resembled a carnivorous animal. When I first saw him, I was so surprised that I didn't know what to do, but he really was handsome. He had some kind of manly look, and with the gown-type clothes he was wearing I could see his collarbones down to the top of his abs. I remembered seeing that Diana had sincerely loved Claude in a side story on Lovable Princess. I could see why women were attracted to him like a moth to a flame. Claude's eyes really were beautiful too. His eyes seemed like actual jewels because there wasn't any warmth in them. His eyes seemed slightly green, reflecting the lake. Were my eyes like that too? I was too scared to stare at him any longer and looked away. There was an interesting flower. I thought I was seeing things, but as we got closer to it, I could see it from up close. Whoa, what is this? It's a blue lotus. Oh wait, no it wasn't. It only seemed blue because it was reflecting the lake. It was actually almost transparent. But did lotus flowers grow in lakes too? I wanted it. I stretched my hand out so I could have it. I was aware Claude was watching me, but I didn't care. It wasn't even that pretty a flower, but I had to have it. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit. And when my hands almost reached the petal, flash, I fell out of the boat. Cough, cough. Water entered my mouth and nose as I frantically splashed around. How did that happen? The dress I had worn today was a layered lace dress, and it felt heavy. I couldn't think because I couldn't breathe. I can't swim. I can't save. No matter how hard I tried to touch the ground with my feet, there was nothing there. I wasn't able to pull myself out of the water. Claude silently watched me fumbling in the water. I could tell the moment I saw his pitiless eyes. He's not going to save me. Even if I drown like this, he'll just watch me. The moment I realized that, the strength left my body. Something wrapped around my ankle and pulled me down. The feeling of water pouring into my lungs was horrifying. Death by drowning. The thoughts I had before I got on the boat were happening. Cough. You son of a bitch. At that moment, a strong force pulled me out of the water. I endlessly coughed up water. The world was spinning and I couldn't tell where I was. My goodness, princess. I didn't even know how much time had passed. I heard someone running over and Lily's shocked voice entered my ears. I realized that Claude had pulled me out of the water from the safety of the boat and put me by the lakeside. Felix. Yes, Your Majesty. Teach Athanasia how to swim starting from tomorrow. He shook his hands to get rid of the water. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if my only daughter died from drowning? That wasn't he should say to someone who almost died. But there was no one here to point that out to him. Lily hugged me after wrapping me in a large towel and looked like she wasn't in a right state of mind. Felix made an agitated expression at the emperor's back and quickly followed him, who had turned away to walk towards his palace. Princess. Princess, it's okay. It's okay now, princess. Claude's back filled my blurry vision. I was able to cry once he finally left for good. I had never experienced this kind of fear in my entire life. After that day, I was always sick after I met Claude. I always threw up after I ate with him. I was extremely sick after that experience and was bedridden for a while. And while I was by Lily and the other maid Eunice, I came to the conclusion that Claude was a son of a bitch. He did pull me out of the water, but he didn't save me right away. That rude psychopath. How could you just watch a 5-year-old drown? And his daughter, at that. Whenever I thought of that, I got shivers down my back. I cried myself to sleep every night. And on those nights, Lily stroked my hair and tightly held me. I was only able to fall asleep in her arms. These days, living life was a chore. If I was a normal child, I probably wouldn't have been able to even look at water again. When would I be able to escape from this imperial palace? And Claude stole 2 of my pouches away from me. That bastard. He told me to come get my treasure back, but I wasn't crazy. Hannah. No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't find the will to live. So I tried to find it in different places. Chocolate. No, you can't. Ms. Lillian will. I want to eat chocolate. I continued to whine, but Hannah didn't give in. It seemed like she had been strictly warned by Lily not to. Well, I have been eating a lot of sugar these days because of the cake from Claude.
Yang.
Then, it was time for the last resort. Audie wants chocolate. Receive my puppy dog eyes attack. Don't do this. I sparkled my eyes. You really can't, princess.
I'm sorry.
And Hannah left the spot like she couldn't take it anymore. Hey, give me my chocolate before you leave. Hannah. I can't believe it. Hannah won against my attack. It seemed like my cuteness had taken a downturn these days because of all the stress lately. But I hadn't given up yet. I sneakily entered the kitchen. I knew I was being childish, but I couldn't give the chocolate up. They were totally luxuries for me in my past life. So I'm going to eat chocolate. I excitedly ran over to where the chocolate was. CS, where are you going? Just a moment. I think I left the stove on. Uh-oh. I quickly hid myself. It was open. Was there a need to steal a chocolate now? I could just ask her for one. It was fate that I met her here. A bug. Just when I was about to speak up, CS screamed. And soon, a black spot that was visible on the soles of her heels was a cockroach. I can't believe a disgusting bug dared to enter the kitchen. I let out a sweat at Suza's cold voice. I'll have to tell Ms. Lily that we should speed up the palace cleanup day. Cockroaches don't have a place where the princess is staying. Wow, CS Uni was definitely the psycho of this palace. But wasn't there some kind of sound earlier? I wasn't going to ask her anymore. Of course, CS would never treat me like that cockroach, but it was... She seemed like she would tell Lily if I asked her right now anyway. So as I stayed quiet in the corner of the kitchen, CS tilted her head like she thought she was hearing things and left. I finally poked my head out. I slowly reached out for the chocolate on the platter. There was a small sound coming from somewhere. I was frozen because I thought someone had come in again, but no one entered. Did I hear wrong? But I definitely did hear something. I was confused. And the stories of the ghost in the kitchen the maids had been talking about flashed in my head. Gasp. I had been having nightmares that a ghost was pulling my ankle because of the incident a while ago. The kitchen suddenly seemed scarier. I had occasionally stolen chocolate before, but the kitchen had never seemed as creepy as this. And now that I looked again, it really seemed like somewhere ghosts would live. Sweat dripped down my back. It felt like a ghost was gonna appear any moment. Princess. Like right now. I screamed like a banshee. Did the maids who had been killed by Claude come to kill me? Or was it the ghost from my nightmares? Oh my, princess.
I'm sorry.
Were you surprised? But it was Lily. She seemed as surprised as me. Princess, I think you need to leave right now. Lily hurriedly took me somewhere, like we had somewhere to be this instant. Oops. But I got caught in the kitchen, and I had 2 chocolates that I had stolen from the platter in my hand. I secretly put the chocolates in my dress skirts. It seemed like Lily didn't notice I was holding chocolate. What exactly was happening for her to be so rushed? And I soon found out why. It's an honor to be serving Princess Athanasia. Maids were curtsying at me, who was being carried by Lily. How many were there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I gave up counting once I got to 30. These unis are going to be serving me from now on? The situation was similar to a Korean drama I had seen when I was working part-time at a restaurant. It was a romantic comedy with a rich female lead character. But the scene I had seen was super unrealistic. After she had finished shopping and returned home, all the maids in her home were bowing at her. Starting from today, I have been appointed as Princess Athanasia's temporary knight. I gaped at Felix, who stepped forward. Claude was really a psycho. How could he do this? I laughed unbelievably at the situation. Not too long ago, he had said those icy words to me when I was still shivering after almost having drowned, and now, he gave me these people to work for me. What did this mean? I am thankful for His Majesty's kindness, but why is Sir Robin? Lily looked like she hadn't heard about this either, and had a shocked expression. And Felix looked at me and smiled. The knight and I stared at each other in an awkward position. I will have a small break time without guest. That sentence came afterwards was the least thing I have wanted to hear in the situation other than die. Wow, what kind of situation would this go to? My back was sweaty from all the sweat. Am I having a tea party right now? A tea party with the bast asterisk RD who kills me in the future. Gasp. Our eyes met. I set my gaze downwards thinking that the guy in front of me would kill me right now rather than 13 years later.
Sobi.
Don't curse me. This is the basic I have to do to survive. Even the knight seemed to be uncomfortable, and the only one normal was Claude, who was sitting across from me. Me? Forget it. It is obvious, isn't it? I didn't know that you were mute. I started to have hiccups from the words that Claude spoke, sipping his tea. This is not fun nor interesting. You can't talk. Is it from the body of the original Adonasia that from only these words made me shiver? My spine, though it was going to be interesting but turns out, it's not so die. Is it something like this? It was expected that he won't be so welcome, but his gaze was as cold as ice, seeming as if it was looking at something not even living. Yes, I don't know how, but I still am sitting here, having a moment with Claude, but it is a fact that if his mind changed, he could kill me within a second. Does she normally not talk, or is she actually mute? Audie can talk. Hee hee. I forcefully smiled. Hopefully it'll look like a smile. Ahuhoho. What would I do then? I'll have to if I have to. I don't want to die right now. He doesn't have the aura to kill yet, and second, the real plot of the original novel, I was still there not knowing what to do at all. It is all because of those maid sisters talking scary about him. Finally, I got to hear your voice. Why did you stay quiet all these time then? This kind of question again. Does he even know that the person sitting across from him is only 5 years old? How do you expect for me to answer it? Do I say I was scared as H*LL by you that I couldn't talk? The person who helped me suffering in this situation was the brother knight standing by the wall. Sorry to interrupt, Your Majesty, but kids of princess's age are said to act this way a lot. Now is it? And now he reply like that as if he was like, no, I didn't threaten this non-living creature. Yeah, that's right, you dog bast asterisk RD. What is there a reason for a little kid to be lost in words? Besides, anyone in front of you, whether it is an adult or a child, would go in a mental breakdown. But when my eyes met his again, I turned back to Audie knows nothing. Innocent smile, laughing, hee hee.
Sobi. Ya. Whatever.
You are right. You are all right, so just let me go. Claude didn't take his gaze off of me, and just leaned back on the sofa. Him sitting in that position made him look like a lion king resting. His sunny golden hair color gave him even more aura as a lion king. I, of course, was just a shivering food. A bunny or a mouse? An animal that would die in one hit from a lion. Felix. Yes, Your Majesty. Get out. Brother Knight was ordered to get out of the room. It seemed like he didn't like how he answered the question for me. Wait, brother, are you really going to leave, leaving me all alone with him? No ho-ha. Bad Claude. What will you do with me without Brother Knight in the room? But what can Brother Knight do? Setting my pitiful gaze aside, he left the room. It wasn't comforting, that sorry gaze he gave me right before he left. Audie must be your nickname. I was so nervous that time that I must have used the words I used to tame those maid sisters. Athanasia, huh? I was getting nervous again. That is my name. Yeah, what? Do you know the meaning of your name? Oh no. It wasn't a good thing that Claude is a bit interested in me. It was because of the meaning of Adonasia's name that he kept her alive at first. That is because the name I have was the thing not even the current Emperor Claude could get. To your child, moreover to a girl you named her with this name. If you were alive, even ripping you to death would be a weak penalty. Claude was not the actual one to rise to the throne. He killed his older brother to take on the throne himself. The brother of Claude who was killed was named Anastasius, and the emperor then was Ibum. It was said that both their names had meanings of eternity and deathless. Even the number 1 empress of Obelia, Imbrose, was the same. To say it a bit more simply, out of the emperor, only Claude was not able to get the name with those meanings. So Claude might feel displeased and kill me. I am not harmful to you. I also don't have any interest in taking the next throne. Living as quietly as possible and leaving also quietly as possible is my life goal. I don't plan on living a fun and adventurous life. I just wish to live with an existence of air or a very thin string, that's all. That is my only hope. It's only the name. I am just a bug who lived 5 years. Wait, but no, I don't mean for you to be like, die, you bug, and stomp me with your foot. What are you staying all still for? Eat. It is fortunate that Claude right now doesn't intend to kill me right now. However, I don't think he'll send me back to the Ruby Palace either, so I don't know if this situation is fortunate or unfortunate. I am sure, though, that I am in a crippling depression. I have purposely ordered to bring foods that kids will like, but if you don't eat, I would have to punish those who prepared these. Thank you for the food. This bastard. Did he just threaten me? He did, right? I reached for the fork, laid properly with my shaky hand. On the table were a lot of delicious-looking desserts, but it was already when I lost my appetite. Shit, I feel like I'm going to be sick. I had to have this kind of tea party, but when I don't eat these, I feel like Claude will catch and kill the workers here, so I have to eat them. Even though Claude have been quiet these days, but who knows what happened 4 years ago will happen again. And if that happens, there'll probably be my name included in the death list. Sniff. It's yummy. I couldn't see my reflection on the mirror right now, but I am pretty sure it is pale white. But I still smiled. 'Cause I wanted to live longer. Wah, I want to see Lily. But wait, did this dude always talk this much? Gasp.
No.
It is also going to be scary if he didn't say anything and just stared at me. Yes, talk, just talk. And just send me away from this place.
Sobi.
If this keeps on going, I think I'm going to die earlier than when original Adanasia had died by heart attack. Who taught you manners? Lily taught me. Maybe this flesh's guts exist strongly. I was replying to his every words. Claude seemed to be thinking about something, then his next words surprised me. You must be talking about Lillian Yorick. I just said, Lily, but how do you know the full name? That maid who had blocked my way 5 years ago without any fear seems to be still with you. Gasp. Then Lillian was the one who saved Adanasia. Oh my gosh. Lily is my lifesaver.
Wah.
God, Lily. Sister was the best character existed in this crappy novel. I can't believe you also stood and blocked Claude's way in killing me. This is so touching. That bitch and your mom probably was the only one survived after blocking my way. Oh, goodness. This dude is still very murderous at this time too. I feel like I'm actually gonna die. Shiver. Just then, Claude, who was watching me eat cake, opened his mouth again to speak. Do you know who I am?
Clang.
At that very moment, I dropped the fork I was holding onto the plate. If I wasn't sitting at the moment, all the strength in my legs would exit out and would have fallen to the ground. My dry mouth was shivering intensely. My eyes and the other pair of similar eyes met each other's gaze in the air. I wanted to avoid the gaze as I was scared as hell, but I knew that I should not. This was a test. What I developed to do in my past life living a harsh life was to take a hint. Timing and the person's mood, my reactions and such. That is how I realized right at the time I looked into Claude's eyes. He didn't bring me here because he was interested in me in the first place. Yeah, I thought it was weird. He didn't take interest in original Adanasia anyways. This is a situation with no meaning at all. A prize for making him a little curious of me. that is this tea time. A chance given to me. He was going to choose either to keep me alive or to kill me today. Maybe it wasn't mentioned in the novel, but did the original Athanasia got tested by Claude at the age of 9 like this? He was just staring at me still. His eyes contained even more boredom than before. To state it simply, I have survived. To state it specifically, I have eaten the last bit of the cake while receiving Claude's gaze and was delivered back safely in Brother Knight's arms. Back there, everyone was panicking, everything was a mess. Well, it wasn't surprising as I, who was supposed to be sleeping in my room, disappeared. Lily made a face as if she was going to faint any moment after seeing me in the Brother Knight's arms. She was so pale that I was worried if she was going to faint. After I was in Lily's arms, Lily backed away from the Brother Knight as if he was a bad murderer with poison. I couldn't see her face as my head was buried in Lily's arms, but I could imagine what expression she was expressing by her body shivering. Lily held me so tight that it was hard to breathe. When I slightly lifted my head up, I saw all the maids glaring daggers at the Brother Knight. But I also didn't want to side on Brother Knight's side. That is because he left the room, leaving me alone with Claude. The time alone with Claude was, my gosh, I was going to cry blood. What reason else would be there of me totally dead in Brother Knight's arms the whole way here? Wah, you bastards. How dare you abuse a child so fragile like me? Get a real big punishment.
Uhuhua.
His Majesty had said that he will be calling for Princess from now on. Gasp. Crazy. What did you just say? Not only me, but the sister maids all expressed shock by Brother Knight's words. But what's this? Why does everyone express half fear and half joy? Oh no. Is it because I, the trashy princess, was taken interest by Claude? What am I, a girl in a harem who is dying to see the emperor? Why will that Claude Bast *RD find me again?
No.
Wah. But have life ever went the way I wanted it to go? I had a fate to go and the emperor calls me and leave when he tells me to leave. Everything was a mess when I came back, but after that Brother Knight left giving us the explosive news, everything was a mess in a different way. I wanted to faint. I was tired mentally. Blah. Princess. Before that, let me empty my stomach. That night, I lied on my bed, replanning the plan. Plan A failed. The wrinkled white paper was slowly being colored by following my hand movement. I knew it would be bad if someone saw this, so I used Korean to write. I crossed out the plan A from the sheet of paper. My plan A was to live in Ruby Palace until my very last day without being caught by Claude. I thought I only had to be careful on my 9th birthday when Athanasia and Claude was supposed to meet, but that was very foolish. This plan was a fail ever since I met Claude. I mean, who thought that bland palace was Claude's palace? I mean, it is not the Empress's palace, but a harem. Why is the distance so close? The emperors in this world must all be so, no comment. I complained a little mentally and moved my gaze on the writing, lower the part 1 crossed out. Plan B. Prepare my insurances before I reach the age of 18 and run away. This plan still has possibilities. Claude kills Athanasia at the age of 18. Well, even though I met Claude 4 years earlier than how it is supposed to flow, so I don't know if the future's been twisted. At least Claude doesn't seem to intend to kill me right now. Then is collecting my BDs continuing? I should cosplay as a maid and find a secret pathway out to escape. I'll keep this plan then. And finally, the extreme plan C. I started to slowly write down letters with a serious expression. Act cute and pick Claude's heart up. Ooh. Oh my gosh, cringy. I stared at the paper for a while, then butchered my face in my 2 hands. It's an emergency call. I need a reality escaper. We are talking about Claude here, not any other people. How would I make Claude to like me? It would make sense more that if I would plant more death flags during my move on Plan C. I'm this close to going crazy. I was going to cross it out, but ended up leaving it and I crossed my arms. I was pretty sure there were wrinkles between my eyebrows. But it is not impossible to try. No, I mean it could be. I can do this feeling without anything to back me up with. I know the plot of how the story will flow. I might not be able to make Claude go crazy for me like how Janet did, but wouldn't I be able to get a bit closer to Claude? I mean, he sent me alive when I said, Papa, without fear earlier today. Ha! However, as I thought of what happened earlier today, embarrassment came over me and I kicked the blanket continuously. Oh my gosh. Papa? The strongest cringe I cringed before. And how long did that last? I finally lifted my head up from the pillow and made up my mind with difficulty. All right, I'll actively go for both Plan B and C at the same time. Okay, then that is decided. I better clean this up before Lily comes. And the embarrassments I will feel during the plan's sob. Let's just think it is FLR good of my future. Princess, it is time for you to go to bed. Lily, help me sleep. I calmed down in Lily's arms, doing Egeo. Lillian Yoruk. It's been a while. I don't know how time flows so fast when bad things are awaiting for you in the future. It feels like it has only been a day since I had a tea time alone with Claude. However, it has been 10 days and I was here in front of Claude again. Blessings and glamours to Obelia's Sunday. What's more better is that Lily is here with me today. Sniff. Sorry, Lily, but I'm too scared of Claude. I might get a heart attack right now too. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Ha! In this specious space were Claude, Lily, and Felix the Brither knight I saw last time. I noticed at Bekor, but there was no one else than Claude and Felix in the palace. Jim was busy that Jim couldn't care for Jim's only daughter. Even so, Athanasia has grown very fine till this day, so your help was not so small. Thank you, sir. Don't make me laugh. It is not that you couldn't, but you didn't. That's not all. You even forgot about my very existence. From now on, Jim will be taking care of the princess frequently, so don't worry. Dun dun dun. The sound of thunder striking on my head was heard. Claude was sitting on the throne peacefully with his eyes looking down at me. Are you smiling? Did that dude just smile at me? But it isn't a smile of someone looking at something or someone cute, but a cruel smile that seemed to be asking me of what am I going to do now. From that, I felt a chill go down my spine. I cancel what I said, mentally. I cancel swearing at you, also mentally. Thank you for not even knowing I existed. Please do from now on too. I'll cry in joy to thank you even if you dig a hole for me to go hide. Uhuhuhu.
Sobi.
Sniff.
Sobi.
What can Lily do to that powerful Claude? She only could agree and watch me suffer. Princess Athanasia will be blessed by what she deserves after today. What it means is that Athanasia will be spending some times with Claude staring tomorrow. But it is not that you've admitted me as your daughter. He definitely said he never had thought of Athanasia as his daughter in the book. I don't know what kind of joke this is when Claude didn't take me in as his daughter. Just what is going on in your head? And it seemed like Lily felt the same way as I did. The face of Lily's after leaving the place seemed like it wasn't going to gain its color back anytime soon. It's fine. Everything is going to be fine, princess. Hearing her whisper in her embrace, I hoped it really would be fine. Looks like you grew chubbier than the last time I saw you. Even though some time has passed, Claude and I were the same. It's only been 10 days since we've met, and I don't think I got chubby within these days that it actually shows. Hee, Papa is also pretty. Since then, I met Claude twice more and had a deathly father and daughter time. I felt it from my experience, but this dude didn't intend to kill me when I act spunky and impertinent. Instead, he got emotionless when I acted like a scared child, and also when I answer with fear mixed into my tone. I was scared the most when Claude looked at me as if he was bored. I might be wrong, but I believe this person was leaving me alive just for a moment of entertainment. That is why I felt like fainting from fear. I felt Lily's shocked gaze hearing my words. But of course, Claude didn't kill me this time either. I knew he liked straightforward and brave style. Follow. He stared with his eyes thinly opened, then turned away. It was then Lily and Felix exhaled the breath they held very quietly. I felt like crying blood of how my death string was being pulled then let go repeatedly. I was going to go on a boat today coincidentally, so prepare for it. Prepare? Ha! Moreover, coincidentally, go on a boat. Ha! I know you planned it out and brought me when it is time. How dare you pretend it is coincident? If you needed something, it probably was already prepared beforehand, so I am pretty sure it meant shut up and follow me. Your Majesty, sorry to interrupt, but it is too early for the princess to play on the water. What are you concerned about when Jim will be with her? That's the problem, bastard. Lily, who was brave enough to speak, started to look at me with worry-expressed eyes. Since people who are not invited to join the Royal Blood's boat time, I was sure she was worried that no one could have me if something happened. But don't, Sister Lily. What will you do if that bastard decides to harm you? But I actually don't want to ride the same boat Claude will ride. You suddenly became not so entertaining. And splash. Into the lake I go. Who knows he'll do that? This rotten bast *RD stopped in track, then asked, do you not want to ride the boat with me? Ah, Audie will ride with Papa. Once again, I smiled innocently and answered. Hearing my answer, Lily's face paled, but I didn't have a choice. That is how I had to have a boat time with Claude, feeling that it's forced. How big is the place that it actually has a lake big enough to have a boat time? With my lifeless face, I floated on the water with Claude sitting across from me. Claude picked me up himself for me to mount, and during it, I had to shiver in fright without no one noticing of if he will drop me into the water. When I had completed getting on the boat mission, I had no strength left in my body. This boat though, it was so controlled. Do boats that royal-blooded people ride always like this? It's not shaky at all and just slips on the water. Wait, we both aren't rowing the boat. Then, how does this thing even move? Is there like a motor or something? Or maybe this boat has 2 floors in total and the workers are moving their legs hard. What are you thinking of? Don't speak to me. Don't look at me.
Why?
I was thinking of answering with today's weather's nice, or the lake is so pretty, at Claude's question, but decided to just go for it. Papa's hair is shiny, sparkly. It's pretty. Well, it was true that Claude's hair was pretty. My light blonde was pretty too, but Claude's honey-like dark blonde was more of my style. Did I get too addicted to gold? Sniff. Sparkly. I like it. Hee. Claude smiled very faintly at my response. No, wait. If he smiles like that, I feel like something bad is going to happen. When I look back, you had some pockets full with gems that day. Dun. It's a goal. Competitor Athanasia is in the first stage for mental breakdown. I am storing your treasures well, so come next time yourself to take them. It's mine. Everything is mine that I can't avoid it. I was in shock. I left my pockets filled with my beauties, but who knew that Claude actually took it?
Crazy.
I really don't think I have a future of a peaceful death. When I was lost for words, Claude was already emotionless. He's bored. His eyes were set on the place across the lake beside him. That gave me the opportunity to examine him a little more freely. Which country is Claude's clothes from? Egypt? Greece? I don't know. Forget that, but anyways. This kind of big and loose clothes suited Claude very well. Last time I saw him, he looked like a lion. But now, he looks like a leopard resting in the sunlight. Well, either way, he is still a wild carnivore. I didn't realize it at first as I was too shocked, but Claude was very good looking that anyone would gasp when they saw him. Shit. I don't want to admit it. How to describe? A handsome man with a wild aura surrounding him. He was wearing a gown-like clothes like always, so the way his muscles show. Gasp.
No.
I felt blood gathering around my nose. I found out that Adonasia's mother Diana truly loved Claude while reading Lovely Princess, after story. I didn't get it at first, but now I feel like if girls saw him, they would fight for him like a fire-giving spark. Claude's eyes that are looking elsewhere than my eyes were very beautiful that even I could compliment, because his blue eyes with no warmth at all looked as if they were really gems. From this angle, it was a color lighter than the lake we are on, a faint turquoise. Does mine, too? Even so, it took me too much to keep on staring too much, so I slowly turned my head. Then I saw a flower very mystic. At first I thought I was seeing things, but as the boat went closer to the flower, I could see it clearly. Wow, what is this? It's a blue lotus flower.
Ah?
No, it's not. It looks blue because of the lake's color, but the leaf itself was clear see-through. It looked similar to a lotus flower, but the leaf see-through. But did lotus flowers bloom in the lake? I want to have that. I had a feeling I could reach it if I reach out my hand, so I moved to the very edge of the boat. I knew Claude was watching me, but even that couldn't have my interest leave the flower. Even though it was mystic, it wasn't that pretty. However, I still felt like I had to get that thing in my hand. Little more. Just a little more. And when my fingers was about to touch the leaf, splash, I was thrown off the boat.
No.
Claude didn't push her off. She just fell by herself. The water entered my mouth and nose with a speed. I just crazily flapped my arms and legs. What is this? How did it turn out like this? I was mentally crazy as I couldn't breath from the water. The heavy many-layered dress sister maids dressed me up with as the day I am seeing Claude was all wet and heavy. Wait, I can't swim. I can't. Help. No matter how hard I flapped, I couldn't get a hold on anything. I could only scratch the boat with my two wet hands. I didn't even have the strength to pull myself up from the water. Even though I knew that, I was continuously flapping to reach in fear. And when the eyes which were as calm as always met with mine, my body which was already cold seemed to freeze, till the very end of my toe. Claude was just quietly watching me flap in the lake. The very moment I looked into the calm eyes of his, I knew. He's not going to save me. That man won't save me. He is going quietly to stare at me drown like this with those emotionless eyes. Splash! When I realized that, all strength in me gave up. The thing that was wrapping itself around my ankle was pulling me down. The time it took my head to completely go underwater was quick. Water filling my lungs felt terrible. I can't believe this life's death is by drowning. The thought of mine before I rowed the boat became real. Is this what they mean by words you speak becomes real? Even so, you doggy rotten, stinky, badass bastard. The continuation of the paragraph above. Gasp. Ha. Cough. Just then, a strong pressure pulled me back up the water. I coughed uncontrollably as I coughed out the water. The sight was blurry and my head was dizzy. I also felt water stuck in my ears, so handling all that, I couldn't fully control my body. My goodness, princess. I don't know how much time has passed. I thought I heard someone running to me, and then I heard Lily's worried voice entering my ears like a dagger. I then realized that Claude took me out of the boat that has reached the land just now. Flelix. Yes, your majesty. Teach this princess swimming starting tomorrow. He shook his wet hand once, then turned away from me. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if Jim's daughter were to die drowning? This was not something to say to a daughter who almost died drowning. However, there were no one here who could argue with that. Lily looked busy calming me, who was shaking, using a big towel to wrap me around and hugging. Felix was speechless from the emperor's words. then followed Claude's back with a shock-filled expression. Princess. Princess. It's fine. It's all fine now, princess. Hands of lilies. The whispering voice of lilies were shivering badly. The sight of Claude getting further away was seen from my gaze. I was able to open my mouth after Claude was completely out of my sight.
Wah.
From my long life, and this short life, I have never once cried before in fear. Me, who was very healthy, that didn't get sick easily, was having a hard time after I met with Claude. It was normal to throw up after having a time together eating, and sure, I was used to that. But now, I almost died from drowning in the lake. After the incident, I caught a cold I've never once caught before. The time when Audie was sick before was not cold, but just a light fever, and was lying down with blankets wrapped around me. During the care of Lily and the other sister maids, I had my final conclusion that Claude is one true a doggy bastard. I know he saved me in the end, but I'm pretty sure that Bast *RD didn't save me right away, even after seeing me flapping. What a bad psychopath. How can he look at with that kind of eyes when a 5-year-old kid is about to die by drowning? Furthermore, when that kid is his daughter. When I think about that, I still get goosebumps. I shouldn't be surprised. It is normal he'd be like this. He even killed Athanasia without any hesitation in the novel.
Sobi.
I suffered nightmares every night after the incident as I cried sorrowfully. Then Lily would not leave my room and sit beside my bed and rub my head. She would hug me, too. Those days, I was able to just barely go back to sleep in Lily's warm arms. These days, I wonder what living means. I was helpless in a complete different way than my last life. If I was any other normal kid, that incident would definitely stay as a life trauma and would not be able to face water ever again. I just want to gather more gold and get out of here as soon as possible. I think Plan B would work out for me better than Plan C. How do I make that wicked psychopath fall for me? Wow, I feel like all of my tries till now were all for nothing. I will be able to escape from this palace one day, right? Now that I think about it, my 2 beauties were already taken by Claude. This bad Bast *RD. He told me to calm myself to get it back, but am I crazy? To go in that evil place with my own 2 foot when not Nevin being called? Hannah. No matter how hard I think, I cannot get myself to think of an inspiration to make me keep on living. That is why I was trying to raise my life will that is already touching the very bottom by using this life's good points. Give me Choco. Hannah expressed panic. But I am not in the mood to do Egeo, act cute. My inside is already painted pitch black. Choco. I can't. Ms. Lillian said. I will eat Choco. Hannah didn't hand me Choco that easily. Seemed like she was scolded harshly by Lily. Well, it is true my desire for sweets are increased by Claude giving me sweet cakes unlike Claude.
Fine.
Then I've got no choice. I used my ultimate plan at Hannah. Sister, Addie wanna eat Choco. Hannah's face started to loosen. Here, take my sparkle attack. Don't do this to me. Sparkle. I really can't, princess.
Sorry.
But Hannah just ran away as if she couldn't take it anymore and left giving me nothing. What? Where do you think you're going? My chocolate. Go after you give me chocolate. Hannah. I can't believe it. Did Hannah just win over my sparkle attack? Looks like I was getting too much stress that my Egeo level has been decreased. Grr, I feel dirty. But do you think that'll stop me from eating? I carefully hid in the kitchen without being caught by the maids. It's been 5 years since I lived in this palace, so I knew the time when the kitchen was empty of people. I also know where they hide chocolates and candies. I slowly sneaked further into the kitchen. This was a very immature thing to do, but that couldn't stop me from wanting those chocolates. These kind of good quality chocolate was never given to be last life. It was me who would eat only a meal a day, and that one meal's average would be a past the due date cheap sushi from the grocery store. I would be going to jail even if this was just a dream. I couldn't dream about eating expensive chocolates. Well, at least for me, it was a sin. That's why I'm gonna eat it, chocolate. I looked around and of course found no one there. Feeling joy, I ran to the shelf where the chocolate was hidden. Seth, where are you going? Wait, I think I left the lid open. Be right back. Gasp. I quickly hid my body from the sudden sound of the door opening. The one maid who entered the kitchen was Sister Seth. The lid was off after all.
Ah.
Then wouldn't it be fine to just ask for chocolates instead of stealing? That's right. This is fate to meet in a timing like this.
Ah.
Bug. Just when I opened my mouth to call out for her, Seth shouted sharply with her eyes wide open. Crash. Squish. The thing revealed under Seth's sharp hook of the high heel was nothing other than a miserably squished cockroach. How dare a dirty bug enter the kitchen? I was sweat dropping from the cold voice with no one noticing me. I probably should suggest Ms. Lillian to make palace cleaning day to be sooner. I can't forgive how there is a cockroach in the palace princess is living in. Seth's sister is so cool. That goddess-like movement to kill a fast cockroach. But weren't there some kind of sound? But I should maybe not go out now. Of course Seth won't treat me like how she treated, but after seeing a dead body in front of me, I feel like Seth is going to tell Lily instead of giving me chocolate. And then I'll get in trouble. When I stayed silently like this, Seth turned around to leave. Then I slowly started to move the body I've been hiding and peeked my head out. Sniff. It is so hard to get chocolate today. I slowly reached out for chocolate once again. Rustle. Huh. I heard a small sound from the side. I cautiously turned my face around to the place where the sound came from. Carefully, did someone come in? However, there was no one there. A moment of silence passed by. What was that? Was I hearing things? No, I am sure I heard something. I became dumbfounded. Then I had a flashback of the rumor sister maids talked about a few years ago. No, they still talk about it now too. That rumor of the ghost in the kitchen. Gasp. I became more scared as I had a nightmare of that mysterious water monster pulling me down the water last night. I thought it was only because of Claude's doing all these years, but now, this feels like something else. It looked more haunted as the kitchen was dark and quiet without any sound or anyone. The light was going on and off faintly, and it was dusty. I have come here to steal some chocolate without Lily knowing, but it wasn't this scary. Now it looks like there actually is a ghost living here. I sweat dropped. I felt like as if the ghost will appear behind my back and Tada. Just like that would grab me on the shoulder. Princess. Grab. Yes, just like this. Ah. I screamed as I was scared to H*LL. It's a ghost. Ghost grabbed me on the shoulder. Did a dead maid who was killed by Claude come to get me? Or did that water monster came here to catch me? Oh my, princess.
I'm sorry.
Were you scared? But the one who appeared behind my back was Lily. She seemed surprised as well. Princess, we need you to come outside. But Lily seemed to be urgent that she picked me up before properly calming me down.
Ah.
But I was found out I was in the kitchen. Besides, there already were 2 chocolates from the basket in my hands. Woohoo! I am indeed speedy in, is not what I am going to state. I put the things on my hands in the small pocket sneakily without Lily noticing it. From my point of view, Lily didn't seem to know that I took some chocolate. Just how urgent is the situation to be like this? And soon, I was able to know the reason. We are grateful we can serve Princess Adanasia. I was frozen in place in Lily's arms from seeing the maids bowing in front of me. Just how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I gave up counting till 30. Will these sister maids will be serving me from now on?
Déjà vu.
This was like a scene from a specific kind of K-drama I saw. The romance comedy drama that was so opposite of my situation that I didn't even feel jealous and just thought it was some kind of fantasy. Yeah, my situation, which was me scrubbing the oil off the pans. I remember it as a very popular drama with the daughter of rich parents' romance. But I, not following the fans who made this popular, thought it was way too out of reality and was too childish. The scene I've witnessed was when the protagonist came back to her house after shopping. There she saw the people working in the house lined up, greeting her. I was ordered to serve by Princess Adenasia's side. Felix, who was standing by, walked to where I was when I was in a what the heck situation. Are you getting me medicine after getting me sick? Claude really was a stupid head who was very unpredictable. I could only laugh what was not a laugh, realizing that fact. Once upon a time, a bast asterisk RD, who just left giving few cold words in cold tone to I, who was wet and shivering, nicely gave me many maids and a personal night. Furthermore, Felix was a person Claude always had by his side. Even though it is just temporary, what does he mean by this? We are grateful for His Majesty's favor, but to set Sir Felix Robine as... Lily, too, looked dumbfounded as if she didn't expect or heard anything about this. Then Felix smiled faintly, looking at me. Hope you are enjoying listening to Who Made Me a Princess. To continue this series, visit our website theserialbinger.com for free. Link to the complete series is in the comment box and the description. Like and subscribe for more content ahead.